Hello everyone. We are back. We are back with another video, and we have reached the end of chapter 7. We're going to work on section 7.6 today. And this section is on student loans and home buying. So it's a very useful section, especially around this time where a lot of students are waiting for the president to make a decision on student loans, whether he's going to extend the payment pause or whether he's going to end it. And so I'm recording this. It's August 1st today, 2022. And so yeah, supposedly the student loan pause that started with the pandemic back in 2020 March is supposed to come to an end. I believe it's August 31st. So, and most students are waiting, those who have taken student loans are hoping that he will extend it again, and that there are some help, coming along the way with that. So hopefully we pray that that is the case, so that a lot of students who are struggling, that they have an opportunity to get their finances in order before that payment comes to an end, that payment pause. Okay, so we're going to start with problem number 1, and I'm going to introduce some formulas for students that are just that we will just be using for the part that deals with student loans. And then when it comes to home buying, there is another formula that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and read number 1, and let me just write the section number and then say question number 1. And it says, for the given student loan, find the interest that accrues in a 30-day month. Okay, so we have a 30-day month. And then find the total amount of interest that will accrue before regular payments begin using a 30-day month. And we have a principal, so the loan has a principal amount of $6,400. So the principal is $5,600, right? And that's the principal. And so the interest rate is 6.2%. And the student graduates 2 years and 9 months after the loan is acquired. So graduation is 2 years and 9 months. And that why is that important? Well, we have to see. We have to keep reading. 2 years and 9 months after loan is acquired, payments deferred for 6 months after graduation. Okay, so graduation happens 2 years and 9 months after loan is acquired. This is very important. You want to write this down. And then, and payments start. So when do payments start? So that's what we need to figure out, because payments are deferred. That means they're postponed. So when do they start? So they're postponed 6 months after graduation. So really payments start, we have to count. So 2 years and then plus 9 months and then plus 6 months. I'm writing this down because remember, after graduation, there were still another 6 months before they started making payments. And so that's important. Okay, so A, we want to find the interest. So all, for these problems, we need to be writing things down as we are solving the question. So find the interest that accrues in a 30-day month. In 30-day month. And so interest that accrues means interest that accumulates. Find the total amount of interest that will accrue before regular payments begin. So that's find interest before payments begin. Okay. And that's part B. Okay. And I think that's all we have to find. So let me stop sharing here. And so I just wrote down the information here. We have a principal of $6,400, a rate of 6.2%. We know that graduation is 2 years and 9 months after the loan is acquired, and payments start 6 months after that. So I have 2 years plus 9 months plus 6 months. So it gives me a total of how many months? So 2 years. You see, 2 years is 24 months. You want to count the months. Plus 9 plus 6, right? And so when we count all those months, it gives us 39, I think. So it's 24 plus 9 plus 6 gives us 39 months. This is important because we need to know when do we start making payments. So when is it that we start making payments? Okay, so for part A, they're asking for the interest in a month. All right, so the interest in a month that is going to okay, so there's a formula. I'm going to show you something here in your workbook. Let me take you there first. Let me go back to the workbook, and then I'm going to go to the, okay, you see this formula here, simplified monthly interest rate for a loan. You need this formula, so I'm going to write it down. It's for part A, we need to know both, well, we need the M, the monthly interest amount, right? So M is equal to I times D, but the I, we need to find I first. So I is equal to PR divided by 365.25. That's an interesting number, okay? So it's not times 25, it's 0.25. So make sure you look at these two formulas here, and I is the daily interest amount, P is the principal, R is the yearly interest rate, M is the monthly interest rate. M is the monthly interest amount. That is what we're looking for. D is the days in a month, and we want to use 30 days if not specified, right? So I'm showing you here, you're going to need this formula, both of these, you need to be familiar with them. And so there's the I formula, and then the M, which is what we're looking for A. We're looking for the monthly interest amount. M is equal to I times D, but we need to find I first. D is the days in a month, so that's easy. That's just going to be 30 days, right? So because they told us to use 30 days, the number of days, D. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. And we're gonna go back here to answer part A. Part A, we're looking for the interest in a 30-day month. How much interest is there in a 30-day month? How much interest does this person have to pay in 30 days of having this loan? So we have to figure out the I first. So the principal here is 6,400, right? And then the interest rate, so you're going to take PR, let me see, that's just the formula, right? So PR, you have to calculate, so P times R, yeah. So this is P times R, in the formula is P times R, okay? This is, you're multiplying P times the rate. So 6,400 times 0.062, that's the interest rate, divided by 365.25. So once again, you're multiplying 6,400 times the interest rate. So P times R, and right here is just P. So P is the principal of the loan, R is the interest rate. So P times R divided by this number gives me I. So when you do the math here, you're gonna get, so 6,400. I mean, if you have this calculator, you can do it all in one fraction. 6,400 times 0.062 and divided by 365.25. It's going to give you this number here. And we don't want to round yet. Remember, we don't round intermediate answers unless we are told to round them. You want to write the whole thing. So it's 1.08 6379192. That's for the I, right? And so to get M, you're just going to do M is equal to I, which is this number, 1.08 6379192 times 30 because it's 30 days. And so when you multiply times 30, then you're going to round, okay? You're gonna round. So we're gonna take, and you know what I recommend you do, in fact, you know, let's do something because it's just, let's round intermediate answers to the nearest cent. Because since we're dealing with money, right, we can do that. So if we round to the nearest cent, it's gonna give us 1.09. Because it's money, we can do that. And so over here, I'm gonna do 1.09 times 30. And then I'm gonna get a cleaner answer. So remember, just because it's money, we can do that, okay? Round to the nearest cent. So we get 32.7 for the interest in a month. So it's the total interest in a month for part A. Okay. And that's what they're asking for part A. Now for part B, remember, this is interest in 1 month. If I want to find, so that's just part A. If I want to find the interest before payments begin, well, we have 39 months, right, before we start making payments. So you're going to multiply for part B 32.7 times 39 months. And this is just the interest that's going to accumulate 1,275.3. So this is how much interest will accumulate in 1 month. Okay. So that's part B. That's question number 1. This is a very good question. Please do go over it. Try to master this question because, you know, we all need to be familiar with how this works. You may in the future, maybe you're doing it now. You took out a loan, you know, a student loan, and you know, I always recommend the students not to do that unless they have to. But if they do have to take a student loan, I recommend not public loans. These are loans from the government directly. Don't take out any private loans. So those usually have very high interest rates. And then when they don't, private companies are not very, they don't like to work with you very well. Like when you're asking for a pause or for a break, you know, if you can't make payments, and then you're asking them to help you, to wait for you a little bit until you get back on your feet. They don't like to work with the students. Whereas the government loans, there's so many things you can, there's so many benefits, you know. I recommend you stay away from loans altogether, but if you have to make a decision, never go with private loans. Always get public loans, like from the government, okay? If you can avoid it, loans, avoid them. And usually students pursuing a bachelor's degree, they have so many opportunities to get free money for their education. Anything that is grant, like a grant, it's free. You don't have to repay. But anything that has the title loan attached to it, you will have to repay. Okay, so if you do have to take out a loan, make sure it's a government loan, a public loan, not a private company loan. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the workbook here. So remember the two formulas you need, okay? So you need the M for the total interest in a month. That's the lowercase m here. M is equal to I times D. I is total interest, right? Total interest in the I is a daily interest amount, right? And then that's why we multiply times the number of days to get the monthly interest. So I is the daily interest amount, and then D is the number of days in a month. So when you get daily interest times 30, you get monthly interest amount, right? And so once you get the daily, like it's $1.09, then we multiply times 30, then we get the monthly total amount of interest. And then once we get the monthly, we can get the total interest by multiplying by the number of months, which was 39 months. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and move on to the next question here. And let's see, the next question I have for you guys. So you guys can do number 2, it's similar to number 1. And number 3 has a lot of parts to it. So I want to do this one, number 3. This is interesting, many parts to it. Let me see. Let's read it. Huawei takes out a 3,300 student loan at 6.3% to help him. And I better write this down because I know there's going to be a lot of information here. So this is number 3. So we know the principal, I'm just going to write P here, is 3,300. And this requires that you read very carefully, okay? The interest rate is 6.3% on this loan to help him with 2 years of community college. So I write down 2 years, and I'm just gonna write community college just to remember that this was the one with community college, and you know that's 24 months, right? So I'm gonna write 24 months. And then it says, after finishing the 2 years, he transfers to a state university. Okay, so he's gonna transfer to a state university and borrows another, so this is the community college. And then I'm just writing this down, okay? State university. And at the state university, he transfers there and borrows another 12,300 to defray expenses for the 5 semesters he needs, to graduate. Okay, so he graduates 4 years and 4 months. 4 years and 4 months. Okay, so he graduates 4 years and 4 months. After acquiring the first loan. So he graduates, let me write that down. This is kind of confusing if you don't write this down. He graduates 4 years, 4 months after acquiring the first loan. So after first loan, okay. And payments are deferred for another 3 months. And payments deferred 3 months after graduation. Okay, after graduation. The second loan was acquired, this is what we need to know. The second loan was acquired 2 years after the first. Okay, so second loan was acquired 2 years after first loan. Okay, all right. So we need to figure out the number of months that, because you see, remember, so the first loan, when he takes out the first loan to help him with 2 years of, after finishing, I'll have to read this again. After finishing the 2 years, he transfers to a state university and borrows another to defray expenses for the 5 semesters he needs to graduate. He graduates 4 years and 4 months after acquiring the first loan. So you have to count everything, like all the months, right? So you have 24 months, and then he graduates 4 years and 4 months. How many months is that? So that's 48. Let me see. So that's 4 years, that's 12 times 4, that's 48 plus 4. So he's gonna graduate 52 months after the first loan, and payments are deferred after graduation 3 more months. And so 52 plus 3 is 55. 55 minus 24. Okay, so there's a total of 55 months. The whole thing, and then we have to subtract the 24 to get the total of, so let me show you what I have written down here so this makes sense, because otherwise it's gonna not, because I know you're like, what is this, right? It's kind of confusing, but let me just show you. Okay. So here we have 24 months. for the first loan. And I'm going to take you back to the question here. Because remember, let's read it one last time before we answer the questions. Wade takes out a 3,300 student loan at 6.3% to help him with 2 years of community college. Okay, so after finishing the 2 years, so he was there 24 months. So that first loan, the life of the first loan was those 2 years of community college. So that's 24 months. Now, that's the first loan, 24 months. Then it says, after finishing the 2 years, he transfers to a state university and borrows another 12,300 to defray expenses for the 5 semesters he needs to graduate. He graduates 4 years and 4 months after acquiring the first loan. So the graduation takes place 4 years, which is 48 months, and 4 more months. So that's 48, that's 52, right? 52 months. He graduates, and then his payments are deferred for another 3 years. So then that's another 55, 52 plus 3 is 55 months in total. Okay, 55 months in total. From the time he acquired the first loan. Okay, so the total months is 55 months, right? Okay, now we're going to see, we're going to break this down. So let me take you back here to the question. So you have 24 months. The total is 55 months, including the 24 months. So we have to subtract the 24 months to figure out the months that apply to only this loan, because this loan has not been alive for all the time, for the 55 months, right? So this loan, the second loan, has been alive 55 minus 24 for 31 months. So 31 months, I'm going to write down here. This is for the second loan, right? Okay, let's go back to the question now. Find the total amount of interest, okay? Find the total amount of interest that will accrue for loan 1 for the community college. Okay, so we have to figure out, remember that the first loan has been alive for the entire time. So this one is 55 months. The first loan, because this person didn't start making payments after 3 months after they graduated. So the first loan has been alive for 55 months. The one that we needed to subtract the 24 months is the second one, because it only started counting after 2 years after, right? So we have to subtract those 24 months. Okay, now let's focus on the first loan, and we need to find the total amount of interest. Okay, so let me write it down. Total interest for that will accrue for loan 1. Okay, so the total interest, I'm going to stop sharing here so you can see what I'm writing. Remember that the formula, you have two formulas here. I equals P times R divided by 365.25, right? To get the daily interest. And so we have to get the daily interest first, and then the monthly interest, and then the total interest. So to get the daily interest is the I, we get the principal, 3,300, times the interest rate, 0.063, divided by 365.25. When you calculate this number, you're gonna get a daily interest of, remember, we're gonna round, 57 cents. This is daily. This is the daily interest. Okay. So make sure you check my numbers. Daily interest. So it's 3,300. Let me check it again. Let me check it. 0.063 divided by 365.25. And yeah, if you round, you get, I'm getting 0.569199179. So you round to near a cent, you get 57 cents. Now you're going to multiply that times 30 to get the monthly interest. So 0.57 times 30. And that gives you 17.1. This is monthly interest. And then to get the total interest, remember you have 55 months, so you're gonna take 17.1 times 55 for the total interest. So we get 900. If you're gonna round to the nearest cent, I'm getting 7.1. Let me see, hold on. 7.1 times 55. I get 940.5. This is the total interest for loan one. Okay. So that's the total interest for loan one. And we're gonna do the same thing for loan two. So right here, it was really, you have to be very careful, okay? Very careful not to make a mistake here. Make sure you understand what's going on in the problem. Let me erase it so you can see the whole thing. We're only doing loan one now. So we did monthly interest, and then first we did daily interest, which is the I, then monthly interest, and then total interest for the 55 months. Remember that the first loan has been alive for 55 months. All right, now let's go ahead and do the same thing. I think they have the same. Let me look at the questions. Find the total amount of interest that accrues until payments begin. Hold on. Part B. So A, the total amount of interest for loan one was A. Now we're going to do the same thing for B. Find the total amount of interest that will accrue for loan two, the state university. So you're going to follow the same process, but now it's going to be for the second loan. So for part B here, remember it's 55 months and the principal. And so you have the, let's figure out the daily interest, which is P times R divided by 365.25. The principal is 12,300 times 0.078 because the interest rate is 7.8%. And if you divide by 365.25, you get, remember to round to the nearest cent. And you get 2.63. And then you're going to multiply, to get the monthly interest, you're going to multiply times 30. So 2.63 times 30. Gives us 78.9. And then this one has been around for 31 months, right? Because we subtracted the 24 months, because remember, the second loan has only been around for 31 months. So we have the monthly interest. And then if you multiply times 31, 78.9 times 31 months gives me total interest, which is 2,440. Let me see, 78.9 times 31, 2,445.9. This is total interest for loan two. Okay. And so let's take a look at the workbook now. What is the next question? C, find the total amount of interest that accrues until payments begin. Okay, well here you have to add both the total interest for both, for loan one and loan two. So 940.5 plus 2,445.9. So you add the two. And we get 3,386.4, I think. Okay. And the next question here, D, it says calculate monthly payment for loan 1, calculate monthly payment for loan 2, that's E, and then find the total monthly payment when the regular payments begin, which is just going to be adding both payments. So I'm going to do each payment. So that's going to be part D and E, and then F is just adding the 2, okay? So that's what we're going to do. And for that, you need the formula for payments of a loan. Let me take you back to the workbook here. Actually, I am there, but let me tell you the formulas. It's going to be this one, the monthly payment for a loan, the R formula right here, where R is the regular payment, P is the principal, R is the interest rate, N is how many payments in a year. And so we're going to be using that formula, okay, for the questions that follow, which are D, E, and then F is just adding the parts D and E. Okay, let's do that. This is a long question, but that's why I wanted to do number 3. And so, okay, let's figure out the payment for loan 1. That's part C. And the formula you're going to use is R equals P parentheses R over N. I'm going to show you how to enter this in the calculator. If you have the calculator I'm using, that's really nice because negative, it does everything pretty much for us. This is based on a 10-year loan, so they already have the numbers already filled in here. That's why you see the negative 120 here and the 12 here. So, okay. All right. Now, let's go ahead and do, now remember, in the principal, be careful for loan 1. It had an original principal of 3,300, but you need to add the interest rate that accumulated. Remember, we figured that out. So it was 940.5 for the first loan. So the new principal is going to be 4,240 for loan 1. Okay, so be careful not to use the wrong principal. And then for, I'm going to do both at the same time here. For the second loan, and it's the same formula, make sure you use the right principal. This is supposed to be an N, but because we know it's 12 payments, they just write 12 here. Okay, and then negative 120 as a default for 10-year loans. So they're using, okay, in the actual formula, it says N times T. N is 12 and T is years, 10. So if you use, if we're talking about a 10-year loan, which most of the student loan, that's the standard student loan is 10 years repay, is to repay them in 10 years. That's the standard plan of repayment. But there are other ways to, there are other plans, but here we're using the standard 10-year loan. And that is why this has a negative 120 because, let me show you, take you back to the workbook. I don't know if they're using the, yeah, if you see here, I want to show you something, you know, for the student loan. This is the formula you want to focus on right here, monthly payments on a student loan. So we're going to use this one here, the one that already has the negative 120 and the 12 as the number of payments, because this is based on 10 years. And so we're going to be using that for this class, okay? But there are other plans of repayment available, but we will focus on this one. So once again, the formula I'm using for the problem is the one that has the title monthly payments on a student loan. That's the one we're going to use. Okay, so here for the principal, you have to add the interest. And so for the second loan, you do the same thing as I did when you add the interest, the new principal is going to be, the new principal is going to, I'll get to that right now, but I'll add the interest. Remember the interest was 2,000, what was it? No, yeah, 2,445.90, right? So when you add the 12, you have to add 1,203 plus 2,000. Let me see, what was the total? 2,445.90. So adding that should give us 14,745.9. This is going to be the new principal, okay? So make sure you use the right principal here. So I'm going to do first one here. Principal here is going to be 4,240. The interest rate for this loan is 6.3%, so 0.063. We have 12 payments. And then we're gonna divide by 1 minus 1 plus 0.063 divided by 12 raised to the negative 120. Okay, so when you plug this into the calculator, make sure you are very careful here. So it's 4,240 parentheses fraction 0.063 and then 12 parentheses. And then we have parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus fraction 0.063 divided by 12, close the parentheses, raise it to the, here's the raise, the exponent key, to the negative. Make sure for the negative, don't use the minus key. This is the negative sign key, this one right here. So this, for the negative sign, 120, and then close this, move the cursor down and close the parentheses. And that gives us a payment of 47.71. Okay. Which we can round to 47.71 is the payment here. Okay. 47.71. That's the payment for this loan. And when you do the same thing to, let me go ahead and do second loan, 14,745.9. Interest rate for the second one is 7.8%. Divided by 1 minus 1 plus 0.078 divided by 12, negative 120. When you plug that into the calculator, sorry about the camera, it gets a little bit difficult to focus it. And you plug that in and you're gonna get 177.35. Let's try that. I'll enter it one more time so you can see how I did it. Okay, so you put a fraction. Can you see there? It's kind of, oh, there's better, huh? I think it's better. Let me move the paper a little bit like there. So, okay, we're gonna do 14,745.9, and then parentheses, fraction, 0.078, down 12 payments, out of the parentheses, close parentheses, and come down, parentheses, and then we go 1 minus, parentheses again, 1 plus, fraction, 0.078, and then 12, exit the parentheses, put parentheses again, raise it to the negative 12, negative 120, sorry, and then we close parentheses, and then we get 177.35, right? 177.35. So that's the payment for the second loan. And then remember, so that was 3D. The last part of the question is to find the total payment, which is going to be 3E, I think, right? And we just add the two. So we add the 47.71 plus the 177.35, gives us a monthly payment of, let me add the two. It gives us a monthly payment, 47.71 plus 177.35, 225 0.6225.06 for both loans, right? That's the total. And just double checking my numbers, 47.71 plus 177.35. Okay, there's a lot in this problem. So if you get stuck, you are welcome to email me, okay? Because there's a lot in this problem. It's not complicated, it's just a lot in the problem. So you can always ask for tutoring, either with the virtual math tutors. Remember, you have the virtual math tutors. There's a link in your Canvas course. You just click on that and then it'll take you to the website where you can find awesome tutors there. These are live tutors, face-to-face, on Zoom, that you can have a one-on-one tutoring experience. You just look at their times, their availability, the courses that they are teaching, that they are tutoring, and you select the one you like. You want to try all of them, and then, so you can see which ones you're going to be working with the rest of the semester. So please take advantage of that free service to you. It's so totally free to the students. Well, it's included in your tuition, so I wouldn't say it's totally free because you are paying for the class, so you're paying for the tutoring service as well. Okay. All right, let us go ahead and see what is next here in the questions. Let me go to the workbook here. So that was a long question. Okay, so I have, let's see, 4. I'm gonna let you work on 4, which I think is, well, it's on the houses, but I want to do number 5, which is just like number 4. So I'll do 5. And this is not a very long section, but the problems do take a long time. All right, so now we're going to move away from student loans and we're going to talk about houses. Buying a house, an exciting experience. Buying a house, it can be stressful too. So we need to learn about the process of buying a house, the process of financing a house. If you don't have real estate experience, you want to contact a real estate agent. And when you are the buyer, one thing you need to know when you're the buyer, you do not pay a commission. The service is free to you. So you need to educate yourself before you go into the market to buy a house. Make sure you educate yourself in your rights. Like, and nowadays it's so easy to do that. You go on YouTube and you Google stuff. I mean, you Google or you go on YouTube, one of both. You can do both. And you read and you watch videos and you read material. But basically, a buyer is when you hire a real estate agent, the service is free to you. You don't pay anything. The seller is paying the real estate agent for that to sell the house and to advertise the house. And so the buyer really, the ball is in your court, like they say. You are the buyer, so you are the one. You don't have to hire anybody. Don't sign anything. Like some real estate agents may ask you to sign like a exclusivity contract. You don't need to do any of that. You just tell them, and what I recommend is you do your own research. You find a house you like you want to narrow it down to maybe an area you like, or two or three areas you like, and then a price range, and then you start doing your own research. Like, look at houses on your own, go to open houses, and then the next thing I recommend that you do is, before you even go to a real estate agent, is you go to a bank if you're going to be financing the house, so that you can start applying for loans and get your credit ready and everything. You get a pre-qualification letter from the bank, from the mortgage company, I recommend banks much better than mortgage companies, because banks are better in by giving a better rate, and I just like working with banks a lot better. So maybe you go to a local bank, and then they check your credit, and then they tell you, okay, this is what you need to get ready in this area or that area. And before you even go to a real estate agent, you already have your pre-qualification letter. You know how much you can afford, and then you've done your research on the areas you like and all of this homework. If you do that, the experience is going to be much better than if you just go to a real estate agent without any research, no homework, nothing. I don't recommend that at all. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into these questions. So it says, a house sells for $375,000 and a 20% down payment is made. So, okay, you have enough money to put down 20%, which is pretty good. I mean, just 10% is almost $40,000, you know, 37,500. So if you put down 20%, you're only going to finance the remaining part, the 80% of that. So it says a 10-year mortgage at 7% is obtained. As you know, I don't know if you're familiar with, but I'm sure you are, most people are, interest rates have really increased in the last 4 months. I'm recording this August 1st. And the Federal Reserve just started, you know, raising interest rates like crazy to fight inflation. And I think you can feel the price tag of things in the stores, and gas prices have started to go down a little bit, but I think it's only temporary because we are not in a very good financial condition right now as a nation and the world, really. So anyway, 7% is obtained, and closing costs are 8,600. Closing costs, these are just extra expenses that you need, I mean, that you will have to pay when you go through the process of buying a house. These are just things from either the bank or the buyer, the seller, combine everything. So these are closing costs. We will include them in the purchase. And it says round to the nearest cent if necessary. Okay, so let's go ahead and write everything down here. So the price of the house is 375,000. We gave a down payment. So this is money that you put down. Now you wanna, it's 20%. And then 10-year mortgage is obtained. That means that the loan is 10 years, the house loan. And then closing costs are 8,600. And then we're going to find the down payment, the amount of the mortgage, the monthly payment, interest. So payment, let me just write this down so I don't have to be switching back and forth. B is the mortgage, and C is the monthly payment. And then D is total interest paid. Okay, and so let's get to work. The sun is a little strong. Just give me a second. I'm gonna try to close the window here. I don't know if that helps or it made it worse. Let me see. It's just the, I have a window here. I don't know if that's making it any worse or better. I don't know. Let me see. Maybe that will help. I think it's worse, huh? Let me move it a little bit here. No. I don't know. It's kind of, it just got like that. Don't know. Let me close it again and let me, well, you can't really let me know. Okay, let's see. No. 5. Can you see? Hold on, let me try something. I think that's a little better, huh? Okay. Okay, so the payment is, well, no, the down payment. This is supposed to be down payment. Down payment is 20%. So we're gonna take 375,000, right? Times 20%, 0.20. And that's gonna give us 75,000, right? Okay, so the mortgage amount is going to be whatever is left after the down payment. So we're gonna take 375,000 minus 75,000. So we're financing is 300,000. So this is the mortgage amount, 300,000. And the monthly payment, we're gonna use the same formula we use for, well, let me show you. Well, this is okay. First of all, when we, this problem is making an assumption now. This doesn't necessarily have to be the case, right? But we have to add the closing cost to this amount when we figure out the monthly payment, okay? So for the formula you're gonna be using is the one, let me show you here. You're gonna use not the formula for student loan, right? You're gonna use this formula here, the monthly payment for a formula, this one right here. The R formula equals P, and the one that doesn't have the 12, it has the N. You see the N here? It's just like the student loan formula, but this one has the N instead of 12. Look at the student loan. It's exactly the same, but is using an N of 12 and a T of 10 because it's 10 years. But we are using this formula here for home loans, the monthly payment for a loan. And this is the same formula we use for car loans as well. So any installment loan, this is the formula we will use for any installment loan. Installment means payments, right? So partial payments. So let's see. All right, so here we have, I'm trying to move away from the sun here. Okay, so for the monthly payment, I'm gonna figure that out. You have to add to the principal, okay, principal is gonna be the 300,000 plus the closing costs. Remember the closing cost is 8,600, so you have to add that. I'm trying to, sorry. And so you have 308,600, all right? And the formula is going to be, the formula that has the R equals P R over N divided by 1 minus 1 plus R over N raised to the negative N times T. Okay, N times T. And so you plug in all the numbers there. All right, I'm gonna erase it so you can see. And you know, I'm very sorry about the sun here. Okay, I apologize. I'm trying to avoid this here. 308,600. The interest rate is 7%, 12 months, divided by parentheses, and then 1 minus 1 plus 0.07 divided by 12. Negative 12 times T. T is 10 years. This is a 10-year mortgage. Okay, so if you enter this information in the calculator, once you enter all that information in the calculator, the payment you're gonna get is 3,583.11. This is the monthly payment. But this is only principal and interest, okay? So this is gonna be principal and interest. Principal plus interest. It doesn't include like your escrow, but it doesn't say anything here about escrow. So this is a pretty high payment, but remember this house is gonna be paid off in 10 years. So you do expect a high payment here if it's 3 years, sorry, if it's 10 years. So that's the payment. And that was part C, the monthly payment. And the last part is to figure out how much interest this person will pay over the lifetime of the loan, over the life of the loan. So we have to figure that out, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. Okay, so I'll give you time to copy all of that. And let me move the paper. I'm gonna just be moving it around to make sure you get everything, okay? So, because I don't know The sun may be blocking some. So there's the top. Apologize for the visibility. And then I'm going to raise it so you can see the bottom clearly. There's the formula I'm using. Okay, so this formula is the way you enter everything is the same way I did it. Remember I did it with the student loan. It's the same thing. But I'm not gonna, because it's hard to project it right now with this sun issue. But there it is. Now, to get the total interest, remember this is the monthly payment. You want to enter this information in the calculator. If you have the TI-30XS, it's easier to enter with this calculator because it has the fraction key and everything. Okay, it has a fraction key. Now, let's go ahead and figure out the total interest. The total interest, the way to do it is you're going to take the monthly payment because this includes principal and interest already. So you're going to take the monthly payment and you're going to multiply it times the number of months in a year times 10 years. And that's going to give you the total amount paid. And then once you have the grand total, the total amount paid over the 10 years of the loan, you're going to subtract the principal. And when you subtract the principal, that will give you the total interest, right? And so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take the 3,583.11. Let's go ahead and let me turn the page here so you can see. So we have, okay, this is the last part. So we have 3,000, this is part D, 3,583.11 times 12 months and times 10 years. And so that's going to give me, because remember it's 10 years, 3,583.11 times 12 times 10, which gives me 429,973.2, right? That's a total amount paid. And we're gonna subtract the principal. Remember the principal was including the closing costs. Remember, if you subtract the 308,600, you get the interest. So anything above the principal will be considered interest. And that's 121,373.2. This is total interest paid over the life of the loan. Just a lot of money, right? And I'm moving it to the side so you can see better. 121,000 and 373.20. Okay. All right. So that is number what was that, number 5, right? I think. Okay. I'm gonna take you now to the next question here. Let me go back to the workbook here. And to the workbook here, that was 5. We did all of that. And 6 is pretty similar. And 7, I'm gonna do, well, 7 is different. And let me see, so 7 and 8, I'm gonna do 8, which is just like 7, and you guys can do, the reason why I'm doing 8 instead of 7, let's see, why am I doing 8 instead of 7? It's the same, it's actually the same thing. So we're gonna compute an amortization schedule. So I'll do number 8. You can do 7, and then I'm also gonna do, oh, I see, because I also want to do 9. So I'll do 8 and 9. And that's gonna be the last 2 questions. Okay. So I'm gonna do number 8. And it says a store sells for 537,500 and a 25% down payment is made and a mortgage is secured at 6% for 20 years. And we need to compute an amortization schedule for the first 3 months. Round your answer to 2 decimal places if necessary, and the value of the mortgage is 403,125. Monthly payment is 2,888.11. An amortization schedule is basically a breakdown of say, if I prepare an amortization schedule of the first 3 months, it's a breakdown of how much, you see this payment here, 2,888.11. That payment is split into 2 parts. It's split into how much will go towards interest and how much is going to go toward the principal. In the beginning of the loan, most of it is going to go to interest, but every month, that changes. Every month, like from month 1 to 2 to 3, the amount that's going to go towards interest is going to be decreasing as time passes by, as time goes by, and the amount that is going to go towards the principal will increase. So that is the way this works. So you're going to be contributing more towards the principal towards the end of the life of the loan. As time progresses, more of your money will go towards the principal and less of your money will go towards the interest. The monthly payment doesn't change. It's still 2,888.11. But the distribution of what goes towards interest and what goes towards principal, that changes. And so it, like I said, less is being applied towards the interest as time passes, and more towards the principal. Okay, so we're going to see how this one is going to work, right? Let me write down the information here. So the purchase price is 537,500. The down payment is 25%. And the interest rate is 6%, and it is 20 years. And so we need an amortization schedule. And the way it works is payment. And then we have interest, principal, and then the balance. Okay. And we're gonna, the value of the mortgage. Okay, so the mortgage is 403,125. The payment, monthly payment, is 2,188.11. Okay, so writing all of this down, we're gonna do payment number 1, payment number 2, and payment number 3. And we're gonna figure out which part goes, how much of this, remember, how much of this is gonna go towards interest and principal. And the balance of the loan, we're gonna be subtracting the principal every time, right? To get the new balance. And so you have like that. All right, let me drink some water. And so we're gonna start with the interest rate is 6%. So first we have to figure out the interest part. So the interest for the first payment, I would call it payment 1. We're going to use the formula I equals P RT. I for total interest. The principal is the the mortgage amount. So you have to figure out, so here I have the down payment is 25% of the 537,500, right? And so that gives me an amount of 134,375. That's 25% of the 535,500. So if you take 537,500 minus 134,375, you get a mortgage amount of 403,125. So that's your mortgage amount. That's the principal. So 403,125. You're going to multiply it times the interest rate, which is 0.06%, times the time. You're looking for 1 month. So 1 over 12, right? 1 over 12, because it's 1 over 12 is 1 month. This is going to give you the total interest, which you will write here. And so when you multiply that, we get, let's see, 403,125 times 6% times 1 over 12. Remember 1 over 12 because it's 1 month. 1 month out of 2 months, right? So you get 2,015.63. So you want to round to the nearest cent. And then once you have the interest, then you can figure out the principal because you have the monthly payment, which is principal plus interest. So this is principal plus the interest. And so you can take 2,888.11 minus this 2,015.63. So remember, you're gonna take 2,888.11, subtract the interest, and then that gives you the principal. So 2,888.11 minus 2,015.63. That gives you the principal of 872.48. Now, how do you know if you did it right? When you add the two, these two here, these two, add them together, you should get back the monthly payment, okay? That's how you know. Now, how do you get the new balance? How do you get the new balance? You're gonna subtract the principal from the mortgage amount, from this one. So you get 403,125 minus 872.48. Don't subtract the interest, you subtract the principal. And you get 402,252.52. Okay. 402,252.52, 52 cents. And you're gonna repeat this. You're gonna repeat this for the second month and the third month. So I'll do the second month, and then you guys can do the third, okay? For the sake of time. So I'm gonna do one more. You're gonna do the same thing for the payment. Okay, so you're gonna do it for the second month. So payment 2. But remember that now the principal is not gonna be 403,125. It's gonna be the new principal, which is 402,252.52. You still have times 0.6%, right? 0.06 times 1 over 12. And so let's see what we get. That gives you 211.26. Notice that it went down. So the interest amount went down from the previous month. That you should expect that. And now to get the principal, you're gonna take the same monthly payment minus the interest, the monthly payment minus the interest. Which gives me 876.85. And notice that it went up, the principal went up, right? What we applied to the principal. Now to get the new balance, you're gonna take the new principal, the 402,252.52 minus, you take this new balance, minus the new principal. So again, 402,252.52, that's the new balance, minus the new principal. So it's 402, 252.52 minus 876.85. It gives you a new balance of 401,375.67. Okay. And then you repeat this for the third month. Okay, so you do the same thing. You figure out the interest first, and then you subtract the monthly payment from the interest to get the principal, and then the new balance from the principal to get the new balance. All right. So there it's number 8. So you've done number 8. We've done number 8. And let's see, what is the next question here? Let me go to the workbook. So please make sure you do the third payment as well. And then let's see, let's go ahead because I wanted to get to 9 because we still have to do 9. And I don't want to make the videos too long. So 9, we have a mortgage. It says, which mortgage would cost less? A 30-year mortgage at 6.7%. Or a 25-year mortgage at 7.3%, round to the nearest percent if necessary. So we're gonna figure out several things here. So first we have to figure out the monthly payments, because in order to figure out the total interest paid on the 30-year mortgage, we have to find the monthly payments of each one. So we're going to do that first. We're going to find the monthly payments of each one. So I'm going to walk you through this question. Let me just write down the information here. So I have the question there on the screen. Okay, so 30-year mortgage. I'm going to just separate them by time. This one's 30-year and then the 25-year. And then I'm going to write the formula so I don't waste time. Just give me a second here because the formulas are kind of long. And then I'm going to plug in. Notice something that they don't tell us. I want you to see something. They don't tell us the amount. You can pick any amount. So I'm going to pick 100,000 just for simplicity for both, just so that I can compare. The interest rate for the first one is 6.7%. So let me just write that down. That way, you know, we have everything here. Make sure the formula, you enter the information correctly. The first one is 30 years. And then the second one is 25 years. And the interest rate, and you know, you can use the same amount. I'm going to use 100,000 for both. So I'm going to use 100,000 for both. And you could have used 1,000. It doesn't really matter, but it's more realistic, you know. So if the amount is not given, you can make up for this problem, you can make up a number. And just give me a second here. And I'm just doing this because it's going to save us some time. So let me show you what I have. And then we can take it, okay, so remember what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out the total interest paid on the 30 years. It says is at 6.7% is approximately what percent of the principal. So I first have to figure out the total amount of interest that was paid on each one. And then I have to figure out what percent of the original principal that is. And so let me show you how you would answer that. So let me stop sharing so you can see. So I began the analysis by writing, you know, we have 30 years versus 25 years. Since they didn't tell me an amount, I picked 100,000 for simplicity. And then I plugged in those numbers for the principal amount for both, so I can compare them. The interest rate for the 30-year is 6.7%, so I plug that in here, 0.067, 12 months, right? So I remember this is 30 years. So this gives me a monthly payment of 645.28. This is the monthly payment. And for the second one, for the 25 years, the monthly payment is 726.03. Okay, you can figure out now the total interest paid by doing the following. So let me raise it. So I know this is going to be 645.28 per month. Times 12 is 1 year, times 30 is 30 years. So this person is going to pay a total of 232,300.8. That's the total amount of money paid. But if you want to figure out the total interest, you need to subtract the principal. So 232,300.8 minus the principal of 100,000, right? That's going to give me of just interest 132,300.8. This is the total amount of interest for the first one. Okay, that's the total amount of interest. We still haven't answered the question. We just need to figure out first how much interest each one is charging in the 30 years or in the 25 years. How do you figure out the total interest? You take the monthly payment times 12 because that gives me 1 year. Times 30 is 30 years. So total amount paid is 232,380 cents. If you subtract the principal, that gives you interest only. You're going to do the same thing here. So 726.03 times 12 times 25 gives you a total amount of 217,809.39. If you take 217,809.39 and you subtract 100,000, you get total interest of 117,809.39. This is just interest only. Interest only, okay? So now you need to figure out what percent of the mortgage payment, because that's the question. What percent of the mortgage payment that is? So in other words, they're asking us what percent of the mortgage is just interest, right? How do you answer that question? Well, it's pretty simple if you know how to set it up into an equation. You can do this. So for part A, but let me go back and show you this. Make sure you get everything here because I don't know if you got everything. So that's the top and then the bottom. And we are not done with this. We're gonna answer part A now. Okay, so let me take you back to the question so you see what the question is. The total interest paid on the 30-year mortgage at 6.7% is approximately what percent of the principal? So you need to set up an equation that mimics that same statement. So it's saying that the total interest, so that's 132,300.8 is what percent, so I'm going to set up the equation of the total. So this is what you would do to answer the first question. This is the total interest is equal to what percent, that's the X here, what percent of 100,000. And so you solve this equation. Remember, the zeros cancel. And so you have, how many zeros left? 1,000 X, and then you divide by 1,000. And that cancels the 1,000, so you get X. And so this is going to move the decimal point, replaces to the left. So 1, 2, 3, so it's 132.3008 is equal to X. So if you round to the nearest tenth of a percent, this is in decimal form. So sorry, this is already in percent form because that's what we set it up to be. So this is 132.3% of the mortgage amount. So you pay the house almost 1 1/3 times, right? So this is 132.3% of the mortgage amount. And you're gonna do the same thing here for the second question, which is still part A. You say, okay, for the second mortgage, then you say, well, 117,000 809.39 is what percent of 100,000, right? And you're gonna see that it's gonna be 117. Once you solve this, it's gonna be 117.8%. You solve it the same way, doing the algebra, right? Go through the same process and you arrive at this conclusion. So it's cheaper to go with 25 years, obviously, because you pay the house, it's 117.8% of the mortgage amount, so it's less interest basically, which we could see by looking at the total amount of interest, right, which was less for the 25, right here, for the 25 years is 117,809.39 versus 132,300.8. So this is the amount of interest paid for each one. So for the 25 years, the total interest paid for the 25 years is 117,809.39, and the total interest paid for the 30 years is 132,300.8. But the question is, what percent is that of the original mortgage amount? So I set up an equation to answer that question. I say, well, this is the interest amount, and that is equal to what percent of the mortgage amount? And it gave me 132.30008. So I'm going to round to the nearest tenth of a percent. Rounding to the nearest tenth of a percent gives me 132.3%. And the second one is like it, right? Okay, so let's see what the next question is. Which, I answer A and B, right? And C is, which one costs less? Well, of course, we can answer C by the 25-year mortgage costs less. Okay, so the 25-year mortgage costs less. For C, 25-year mortgage costs less because it's less interest. All right. Okay, so I think that's it for this section. There's a lot in this section, so I recommend that you go back and you watch the video a second time at least. Okay, so because these problems are not as easy as they seem, you need practice because you have two types of problems. You have the student loan problem, and then we have the home buying problem, right? So make sure that you watch this twice at least so you can really understand, and be pausing the video because I go through the video really quickly, even though it's a long video. And still, since we're not in the classroom, I'm just going through the problems, right? I'm solving the problems. But you can pause the video, rewind it, and look at the question again. And if there's anything that doesn't make sense, just email me and I can clarify for you guys, okay? And take advantage of the tutors also in Math World, virtual Math World. All right, so I think that's it for chapter 7. We're going to end it here. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video. God bless. Take care.